Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the Toffee Blues end of season award ceremony. We're going to be going through all the awards of sorts for the Everton squad for the 2021-22 season. A very eventful season, not for particularly the right reasons. I'm joined by Terry. We get through all the awards for the first team squad this season. As pretty much we could argue, starting the season with Rafa Benitez, we'll start with the biggest negatives. We will start with the worst moments of the season award. I'll just add that all of the votes in this show will be given out of 19. We have 19 regular contributors on the Toffee Blues YouTube channel and podcast. So every member of the team has basically cast a vote in every category, totaling 19 each. So every vote will be basically been scored out of 19, the number of votes out of 19, and the highest scorers will win each award. So we'll get straight into it. Like I say, negatives first, worst moment of the season award, and this one was not in short supply in terms of choices, was it, Terry? This was I think this is probably the easiest one to vote for in this absolute horror show of the season, let's be honest.
Yeah, easily. When I got asked it, I was proper struggling because I was just spoiled for choice. There's so many individuals. Yeah, not just in particular goals conceded or particular games lost. It'd be like moments in press conferences by managers and bits of news off the pitch. There was just an absolute feast of what you could have chosen from.
I think it was just getting thrown at us from all sides this season. Fair play to all of us as Evertonians, I think, for have the mental fortitude to get through this season, because that was like, even by Everton standards, that was everything it could possibly have thrown at us. So, like I say, there's a big pool to choose from in this category, but in third place with 2 votes from the Toffee Blues contributors out of 19, 2 out of 19 in third place is the sale of Luca Dean. What's your take on that one, Terry? It was obviously a nuisance, and it did. When you look at what came afterwards, for a while we did struggle with a lack of balance down that left-hand side. It really did scupper us for a couple of months, that sale, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the story of Vitaly Mikhailenko has sort of tempered that a little bit, just because he's come in and, everything that's happened in Ukraine, everyone wants to see him do well. And, he started off a bit shaky, but then he's grown into his position and he started, being one of our better players towards the end of the season, certainly one of the more consistent. Then he had a great goal, but the Luca Dean sale, it was just the culmination of everything that came before it. It was the fact that Benitez had clearly, made it as a him or me scenario, like he always does at clubs, goes in and goes to war with players and, was leaving them out in games we needed to win. He was putting his ego ahead of the club. And then there was press conferences where he was saying, I don't care about individual stats, referring to Dean from a team that finished 10th, even though we were in 16th at the time. And yeah, and then obviously after we've sold him 2 days later, the manager who's insisted on getting rid of him has sacked himself. So it's just a catalogue of ridiculous decisions and just depressing, full Evertonness. It's just ridiculous. It was awful.
It really peaked in that January, didn't it? I was horrid.
That was where I think Benitez lost the supporters, when he picked the most creative, as in, goal contribution, goal assist, that kind of thing. One of the most key players for Everton and one of the most popular players for Everton. He decided that because this vice captain of the club had questioned the tactics we were employing, which was seeing us lose games, that he was going to single him out and create a situation with him. And it's like, Benitez didn't have the foot and he didn't have the stroke to do that and get away with it. The fans basically decided that if it comes between Dean and Benitez, a lot of them, not all of them, obviously, a lot of them were like, well, it's on the side of Dean because he loves this club. He's the vice captain. We're losing games. He's questioned it, and you're basically putting your ego before the well-being of the club, and that's what ultimately cost him his job.
And that's exactly what Benitez did anyway. So there's no there's no surprise that people took team sides on that. And on that note, we'll go into this is a joint second place for the worst moments of the season. 3 of our contributors voted for each of these moments. One of them, firstly, the actual appointment of Rafa Benitez himself. No surprises there. It was a shocking day for the club, and it's only transpired to be the case even more. So now we know what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, no one can see the future. I think at the time there was a lot of people who were dead against it, and they didn't agree with it for the most part on the ethics of it. Almost like, what he'd said about the club previously, his previous association with Liverpool, etc. And a lot of supporters were like, well, no, he's got a track record of doing well. He's got a track record of club building, etc. I was open-minded to it. I was like, you know what, it's so out of left field, it might work. I was just a bit shell-shocked from Ancelotti leaving, but it wasn't something I wanted to fail straight away, and it was something I quite liked the idea of. Maybe there'll be a manager who can be popular with both sets of supporters. The first man, in modern history.
Win something with both, or...
But then, you even straight away you could smell a rat, because Marcel Brands wasn't at the pictures for the unveiling, and there was very cagey.
Ken Wright wrote a really begrudging sort of welcome message or something, didn't he?
And even before that, Ken Wright had gone crying to Paul Joyce and basically said, "This is a Moshiri decision. The board don't support this." Which fair enough. He should have been listened to in that regard, but it was just showed the disharmony at the club, that the chairman can come out and put air the dirty laundry in public like that because he didn't agree with the owner. It was destined not to work, and it was nothing to do with the fact that he was ex-Liverpool. It was destined not to work for 2 reasons. Rafa Benitez's ability in 2022. I mean, he was in China for a reason. He's washed up now. And Rafa Benitez's ego and politics, the fact that he elbows people out of jobs at every club he goes to. He causes murder at every club he goes to. He builds clubs, if he's there long enough, around himself, so he's impossible to sack, because you've got to sack every single member of staff, and all the way down to the cleaners probably. He's just a toxic poison pill who goes into clubs, and the only 2 clubs in world football who've got a nice word to say about him are Liverpool, because he gave them the greatest night in their history before he got his tentacles all over the club, and that just sways their opinion. And Newcastle, because they couldn't get any worse. In fact, it's not even because he couldn't get any worse. It wasn't his ability on the pitch that Newcastle loved. It's the fact that he went against the owner, and they all hate the owner. So when that's the 2 clubs who have got anything to say about you and everyone else doesn't like you, believe them when they, if people tell
and
you.
Also, the two of the biggest sycophantic fan bases anyway. Even if it was night, they'd all say it was day.
Well, yeah, but I could sort of forgive the Liverpool fans, because he did put something. He put the 5th Champions League of theirs, European Cup, in their cabinet. Can't take that away from him. But every other club where he hasn't done that, they all hate him, apart from Newcastle, because he came out and publicly, went against the owner. And everyone else is like, yeah, this fella ruins everything he touches. He tries to get people sacked. He does get people sacked. He did it here. It's just a disaster of an appointment.
And with that in mind, the joint second place, like I say, joint second between Rafa Benitez's appointment and, almost ironically, in joint second, it's joint second with the 2-0 away defeat to Norwich City, which ultimately saw Rafa Benitez's departure from Everton, the final nail in Benitez's coffin. The 3 votes for that as well. Norwich away, 2-0 defeat, and not surprised again. That was a tough one. By this point, I'd completely sort of detached myself from it. I think this is the most as depressed as I've been as a supporter. I'd had enough. I was quite distant at that point.
It was almost bittersweet though, because you knew at that point, it'd become untenable. Moshiri had dug his heels in and was like, no, we've limped on to January, and now we're going to buy him some players so we can really turn things around. And then he started Mikhailenko in that game, and we just looked, not to say Mikhailenko was meant to change everything, but it just looked like it was clear, or anyone else other than Machiri, it was like, yeah, this needs to be finished. You need to get rid of him now and replace him now. No, he didn't replace him quickly, but we knew that day this is untenable. And it was, as I touched on before, it was just laughable that we bought him 2 players and sold another player at his request, making the job for the new manager so much harder because he's got 2 fullbacks now that he may not have wanted, or he would have maybe preferred to have Luca in the short term and had a look in the summer. But but that game was bittersweet because it was a real low point that we took a beating off a team who at that point hadn't beat any other team in the league, but they beat us. And it opens a lot of people's eyes who were like very comfortable, like, oh, we'll be fine. No, we won't be fine. We're not just going to get out of this on just on our name. We have to dig in, we have to work, and this isn't the fella to do it. But bittersweet because it was the end of a terrible, terrible manager at the club.
Indeed. You say about how a lot of people who felt very comfortable about our predicament sort of had the eyes opened after that Norwich game. You'll be shocked to know what's at number 1 for the worst moment of the season. The real gut-punching eye-opener, that was Burnley 3, Everton 2. I think a moment where a lot of us believed it was done and dusted and that we were very, very deep in the mud.
Yeah,
myself included.
Yeah, Burnley were behind us by, was it 3 points or 4?
They were behind by 4, and
that was it. 4 points. They were 4 points behind, and if we'd have won the game, we'd have been 7 points and basically we'd have just buried them. They'd have been relegated that day because they couldn't have had a 7-point swing at that time. We were in control of the game, all right. It wasn't an amazing game, but we were in command. We were in the lead. And then John Joe Kenny decides to just have a moment of madness, I suppose, and takes on a shot at centre midfield, loses possession, and then he's out of position and we concede on the break. And then obviously in quick succession after, he combines with Ben Godfrey for 2 awful individual errors and we concede, and then that's it. We've lost. They've gained 3 points on us. We've got a run of games coming up, which included Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Leicester away. We just looked dead and buried. I think at that time, we knew what was coming. We were going to Anfield in the next game, and Burnley were playing in the earlier kickoff, and it was like, we're going to be in the bottom 3 at Anfield, and we're never going to get out of it now because we don't have it in us. We've seen all season we didn't have the minerals to put a run of games together, and we didn't as a team. The fans did. This was after this. The fans decided, right, we're going to take matters into our own hands because these players aren't going to do it on their own. But that night was just the lowest of the low. Like for me, I like a lot of people thought we were gone. I thought that's it now. Burnley have got the know-how. They've done this before. They go on late charges every season and get themselves out of trouble. We've got no fighting spirit. We've got no men in this team. We've just got a load of scared boys, and we're gonna get relegated. And it was petrifying. By mine, there was Liverpool fans setting fireworks off. Obviously, because they don't care about Everton, and Everton are a little bit beneath them. But they had fireworks ready to go when they thought we were relegated, and then cry foul when we cheer when they lose cup finals.
To be fair, I had a couple of Blues setting fireworks up not far from me when they lost that final. So yeah, we can't say nothing.
I wouldn't do it, but it's just we don't claim to not be like that. They do. They claim like they don't care about Everton, but they had fireworks ready to go when we lost to Burnley.
Well, thank Christ, obviously that never came to pass. But there you go. The Toffee Blues contributors have had to say, and that's the first award cast to a horrible night against Burnley. Moving on, the other negative on this list, of course, the worst player of the season. In third place with 2 votes out of 19 is the man, the myth, the anti-legend, that is the hologram that was beamed into Finch Farm by His Majesty Khadija Abchan, that's Anwar El Ghazi, who we hardly knew ye. Hard to call him the worst player when we barely remember he is a player, but he was an absolute a typical Kia Cham money spinning waste of time, wasn't it?
That's harsh on him. That wasn't his fault. Like he
Not his
just
fault at all. He might not be a bad player, but we never got to find out, did we?
Well, he'd been rejected a few times by Benitez, hadn't he? We don't want him. We don't want him. Then with the Dean sale, it was clearly part of some monkey business by Aston Villa for their financial fair play. Like if we send him out on loan, then we've freed up the money in our way to take Luca Dean, and Everton need the money for Luca Dean to go out the door so they can bring in Patterson and Mikhailenko. So he was brought in. Not the manager didn't want him. The next manager clearly didn't want him. So he just swapped one bench for another because his agent's a shyster and the Everton owner is a shite hawk who's like gets had off by agents. But that would have been all well and good if we were sitting comfortably in 9th place and miles and points away from the bottom 3. But we could have used that last loan spot. Money was a problem, and Everton had problem positions all over the pitch. So Lampard comes in
back as well, not a winger.
Yeah, like we needed players in defence. We needed players at the core of the team at number 6 and number 8. We needed a striker because ours kept getting injured, and we brought in a winger who no one really wanted and wasted one of our loan slots. But Lampard could have used that. We probably only bought Dele Alli in that mad deal that we did because we couldn't loan him.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. That was because we couldn't get a domestic loan.
Yeah. So it was such an awful move, and we got away with it really because that could have been one of the telltale like bad decisions that would have contributed to our relegation. You could have made a list of things that led to it, but that would have been one of them in the key January where we needed to bring in the cavalry, and we brought in Anwar El Ghazi. What the hell? So it's a bit harsh that he's worst player because there's so many worse than him this season, but I understand
players who've genuinely gone out on the pitch and let us down, but we'll get straight on to that anyway. That's Anwar El Ghazi was in 3rd. There's a joint 2nd with 5 votes, each out of 19. John Joe Kenny and Andre Gomez. Neither of them will surprise us. I'm not.
Not surprising, but I wonder if my pick, which is none of the ones mentioned, is one, or if I was the only one who picked him. But John Joe Kenny, not good enough to play for Everton, not good enough to play for the Premier League. He didn't shirk his responsibility. He didn't like some players hide on the pitch. He didn't hide. He just wasn't good enough. So
the fact that he didn't hide made it more visible how rubbish he was.
Yeah. It's one of them. It's just like he was used and he was shockingly off the pace for what was required. And I'd shed no tears for the fact that he's moving on now. I hope he goes on to have a career. He's a good lad, but we needed better players than him in a relegation.
I will be quite honest with you. I cast this vote and I voted for John Joe Kenny as the worst player of the season at the time because I thought he was absolutely rubbish. And I think part of me was also sickened about the fact that he might have been staying on for a bit longer when his time was obviously up. So in the time since, the fact that we offered him a contract and he rejected it to try something elsewhere, I've actually gained a bit more respect for him, to be honest.
Yeah, it shows he's got brains.
He's not going to sit around like a job's for the boys, like a lot of, because he easily have done it.
He's decided he's 25 now. It's time to go and be a footballer and start every week for the team. And if Everton are only going to keep you around to cover left back, then don't stay because they've stayed up now.
He'd be exposing himself, showing himself up, go somewhere where you can find your level and make a career for yourself. And fair play to him. I have a lot of respect for him now that he's done that because, and also it also just goes to show what a nutcase our board is for considering offering him a new deal. I think it's absolutely absurd, and that shouldn't wash with people, but it probably will. Thankfully, Kenny's took he's involved obviously, but Kenny has took the matter out of everyone's hands and made the right decision for himself. And I wish him all the best. To be honest, I've actually, like I say, since voting for him there, I've actually gained more respect for him for doing that. On the other hand, there's his counterpart in 2nd place, Andre Gomez, who is still claiming a hefty wage at Everton and could easily have single-handedly sent us down in that Palace game, couldn't he? Like, took to half-time, and that decision may well have, and this is obviously why he's such an adverse sense in this sort of role of dishonour, is that he was the moment he was hooked was the moment that kept us up.
I know, just a complete waste of space as a player. Like, he's the modern Jelavic, where he was unreal when he started, or at least I felt he was, and then he just fell off a cliff. Like, he's not worth a carrot. Like,
we need to go on for this segment, didn't we?
I know. He can't. He doesn't contribute in the attack. He doesn't do anything in defence. He doesn't do anything in general. The only times he looked marginally good is when it's the last 10 minutes of a game and we're winning, which, let's be honest, how often is that now?
Oh, exactly.
And he can protect the ball. He protects the ball because he's quite nice and smooth on the ball. But that's it. Just put him on and he'll spray the odd sideways pass around and look nice doing it. That's it. That's all he's got. And I'm sure there's some players on a Sunday League pitch who could do that. And it's better for everyone if he moves on. Like, he's probably in with a shout for being the worst player of the season. But the only thing that probably saves him is that he didn't play as many games as some of the others.
Well, there's reasons for that as well. I think his fitness is questionable as well. I mean, obviously he had a terrible injury, but we're going over 2 years back now. You know, that's ancient history near enough now.
Yeah. So who was number one?
2 out of 19 went for Anwar El Ghazi. 5 each out of 19 went for Kenny and Gomez. That leaves 7 votes left out of 19, and 6 of those went to our number one. Worst player of the season, Rafa Benitez's best mate from China, Salomon Rondon.
Oh, right. I didn't pick him.
I think I know you voted for the one who we haven't read out, and I think I know your dishonourable mention's going to be who was
I won't go on about it because he's not won, but Michael Keane. I know we scored that.
I had a feeling that would have been you, and I thought, as soon as you said you're not sure, I thought you might have mentioned.
Yeah, well, fair enough. People don't agree. That's fine. But despite his good goal in the Palace game, I think that saved him a little bit. He was on a one-man mission to send us down around that Burnley game and the games either side of it. But Rondon, I mean,
you can't argue it. I think to be honest, you say Keane's goal might have saved him in equal measure. I think Rondon's red cards against Brentford probably well for him.
Yeah, tipped him over the edge. Yeah, I mean, I know I always bring it up, but it just makes me laugh so much. I said in the summer or the September when we were signing him that, all right, we'd won a few games at the start under Benitez, but that won't make me suddenly, forget what football, lose me sense of sight and sense. This fella is an absolute crab who can't do a thing. He again, like his manager, he's in China for a reason. He's shit. And we're going to bring him into play. And everyone's going, oh, you won't get a better backup than him. You would. You'd easily get a better backup than him anyway, on loan, anything. He's an absolute shed of a player. He's crap. And then when he's come in and Calvert-Lewin's got an injury, we've had to watch him play. And I was like, oh, well, he's not fit yet. Well, he's played like 19 games in a row. So when was he ever going to get fit? And when he was fit, he was a waste of space. He was like playing me up front. I'd have done as good a job as Salomon Rondon. So he's won, and I could have told you he would win the worst player of the season a year ago, and I got called all kinds for it by people on the laughing gas.
If there's anything that's testament to Salomon Rondon, at the halfway point of the season, I don't think this vote would have been that close.
Absolute waste of space. It's only because he stopped playing so much that he eased off a little bit, like Richarlison.
Same with the Andre Gomez situation that you just mentioned there, because he wasn't seen as much. He probably wasn't bashed as much.
Absolute crab. He's absolutely terrible, and it was just laughable that we brought him in. And to everyone who gave me abuse on Twitter and called me all kinds of names because I said a year ago this shit player's shit. Well, you're laughing on the other side of your faces now because I was proved right. And now all those people are all the ones calling him shit on social media now, pretending they never stuck up for him and went against the GOAT.
Oh, well, there you go. On that note, Salomon Rondon gets your second Raspberry Award of sorts. He gets the worst player of the season, Salomon Rondon. Do you think Rondon will be gone this summer?
Who the fuck's going to take him? No, he'll just stick around for a year and then we'll release him next summer. He'll be the Tosin next year.
Oh,
I mean, if he wants to play, he'll move on, and we'll probably take nothing for him just to get his wage off the books. No one's going to look at him and take him, and he's certainly not going to play here. They're not going to go, yeah, you give him a game. No, he'll just be he'll be helping with the cones and stuff for a year.
He'll be looking after. He'll be inheriting totes and spray on hair.
Probably. He won't be surprised if he goes anywhere before his contract's up. He's another waste of space.
Oh, well, that's something to look forward to. Him still sticking around the training ground. Right, on to the positives. Thank God for that. Best moments of the season. Third place with 2 votes out of 19. Rafa Benitez getting the sack. This is how much we have to scrape the barrel for this one. The narcissist scumbag who got us into this mess getting binned off is the third best thing that happened to us this season.
Yeah, what more can you say? Good moments. It was a moment of sense and clarity. It wasn't a good moment in the sense of we were in a mess and we knew we were going back to square one again. But it was just it's never too late to start doing things right, and getting rid of him was a step in towards doing things. Yeah, so you can criticise Everton for doing wrong things, and rightly you should, but you've got to give them the due when they do the right thing and sacking him.
Well, in fairness,
it saved the season, because if we'd have gone any longer with him, we might not have survived.
No, we wouldn't have. But the thing is, fans were rapidly losing interest. As I said, there was very detached come that Norwich game, and immediately, yes, we lost the next week against Villa with Dunk, but at least I got up and watched the game. Because I hadn't watched an Everton game for about 3 months before that Villa game. So that's what Benitez has done to me, and it's done the same to a lot of Evertonians. So to get the fans engaged again, and you certainly wouldn't have seen the scenes in the final month or 2 of the season outside the ground and us greeting if he was in the dugout. So, like you say, it certainly did save us, I think.
Yeah. It was one of the key moments of the season. It wasn't one to be celebrated at the time, but when you look back now, it was the very beginning of the fight back, and it didn't kick in properly for a while, but it was the beginning.
And in that sense, second place, 3 votes out of 19. Go to, and this is very sad to be saying this on an Everton show, that this has been the second moment of the season. Sealing Premier League safety. Just actually surviving.
Well, I don't know whether this... Was that in the second, did you say? Yeah.
In second.
Yeah, I don't know what the first's going to be then. Does that include the pitch invasion?
I think the second is the pitch invasion, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, because that was my moment of the season, because there's not a lot to choose from, but that moment was just incredible. It was like you just felt that the months and months of stress and worry left you, because you're like, we're safe, we're mathematically safe, it's happened. So the outpouring of like relief and joy onto the Goodison Park pitch, not the first one when we scored, I was fucking fuming over that. Get off the pitch, we're going to get this match abandoned, or get about 15 minutes extra time. But when the final whistle went and everyone could just breathe for the first time in months, it was incredible. And that was my number one. So I'm very interested to hear what number the winner was.
Well, number one was the goal. The game, the Palace game.
Okay, so the actual the Calvert-Lewin header.
Yeah, and the goal went in. The actual game, I think the second went to the pitch invasion, but the actual first place moment goes to the game itself, the win over Crystal Palace, the one that sealed us, kept us up. I don't think anyone could really disagree with that.
I mean, there's honourable mentions for like just the iconic moments. Like, it's not a season to be celebrated. It's not a season that you'll look back on fondly, but there's some iconic imagery from this season.
That Chelsea game alone.
The Richarlison with the flare and the dog.
Mara the dog was just the best thing to come out of this season for me.
The big bolt cutters.
The bolt cutters.
The big bolt cutters. Just stop oil, lad. You can laugh now because we survived. You can look at all this.
Massive cable ties and
Yeah.
Obviously, that Chelsea game as well. Yeah, everyone talks about obviously the bus greeting and the flares and Myra, the dog, and he throwing the flare. But what about the fella putting the ball under his shirt?
That as well, yeah.
And then the Palace game as well. The woman slapping Joachim Anderson when he was grappling with Dele Alli.
Have you seen the Grand Old Team mismatch?
I bought a copy of it a couple of years ago, but obviously there's been a lot more to add to it since.
Well, for those who don't know, it's basically a collage by a cartoonist of all throughout history the iconic moments of Everton. So, and it can be really big things like lifting up, the league title or the European Cup Winners' Cup, but it can go really down to the small things like Jagielka's goal against Liverpool in the last minute, to equalise, or it can be
Mr. Testicles running on the pitch.
Mr. Testicles and stuff like that. Whereas I was thinking, never mind adding all this season to a mismatch. They need their own separate mismatch poster just for the iconic visual moment.
Just for that Chelsea game at home.
I know, incredible.
Oh well, that was, I think, for me. I actually think that I was basically the exception to that one, like you were with the team one. I actually feel like the moments of the season, I was the only one not in that list. I went for the Chelsea game because of what you just said, all the iconic moments. And for me, I think I was in London, actually. I didn't see the Crystal Palace win. I was too busy hiding by that point. But I was there for the Chelsea game, and that was an unbelievable day. That was one of the best Everton supporting days I've had, and in the midst of a horrible season. I'm not going to argue with that. I think my moment was the Chelsea game, so that's probably the honourable mention there. That's the only one that didn't make it onto the list. Was my one.
I can't argue with the header though. I mean, people ran on the pitch in droves, and the game was still ongoing. And that moment of panic got me. You'd even see Calvert-Lewin on camera go, "Get off the effing pitch," and I was worried. But then when they all got off the pitch and then the game went on, I was like, we're staying up. That we can't. When even with our luck, we're not getting back to 3-2 in this game. We will. You'll need a nuclear missile to get past this defence tonight now. There's just no way. I thought every player will be running 100 miles an hour, and the relief at the final whistle, I swear.
Fabulous stuff. Next award we've got is the game of the season. Very similar in a way to the sort of moments of the season, strictly speaking, focusing on the fixtures this season. We've got a joint second. We've got 3 different fixtures in joint second and a runaway winner. No prizes for guessing what that's going to be. In second place, the joint second, a vote each for Newcastle at home, the 1-0 win, Chelsea at home, 1-0 win, and Arsenal at home, the 2-1 win. All really good. 2 brilliant nights under the lights there. That Chelsea game as well, which I mentioned, I absolutely had a ball watching that one. You can't argue with any of them. They were all fantastic nights, and it was nice to have experiences like that at Goodison, but just rather not be for that purpose. But any idea what number 1 might be with 15 votes out of 19?
At the game we've just covered.
Precisely that game we've just covered, of course. The runaway winner of game of the season, Everton 3, Crystal Palace 2. The game that kept us up. Another comeback at home at Goodison from 2-0 down to 22 against the team playing at Selhurst Park. History rewrote itself for once, which lightning tends not to strike twice, but there was so many weird parallels with that Wimbledon game, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone on about that game. There wasn't a lot of games you could choose from this year, but is there any surprise that even they're just all at Goodison? When it's not there anymore, I'll miss Goodison so much. I'm looking forward to the new stadium every week. I watch the drone footage from the lads like Mr. Drone UK, School of Science TV, and Barry 1878. It'll drop. Follow their channels, subscribe if you don't already. They're
great content.
Can't wait for Bramley Moore but I'm going to miss Goodison. There's going to be nothing. Like, I'll tell my kids in the future, which I haven't had yet, but I'll tell them, they'll go, what was Goodison like? And I'll say, unlike anywhere else. It was an old English ground, and it was the 12th player. It wasn't the stadium itself has got power. Like Howard Kendall, he said, didn't he? Just put the ball in the box and the Gladys Street will suck the goal in the net.
The ball did that against Palace. It certainly did that against Palace.
Yeah, that was the thing we had going for us in this fight for survival. We had the home crowds, we had the Goodison crowds, and no disrespect to Turf Moor, but or Ellen Road, it's not Goodison Park, and we'll miss it when it's gone. And it's not always great nights. We've had European nights there. We've had famous wins, but these were famous scraps, and we got ourselves out of trouble at Goodison. 2 away wins all season. We got out of trouble at Goodison Park.
Certainly did. But that game, the parallels, there was parallels between obviously the Wimbledon game, the London club, Selhurst Park club, 3-2 win from 2-0 down. There's so many parallels there. The atmosphere, it was absolutely off its head, obviously. But the parallels with Gareth Valery as well, with the fact that, Michael Keane did a full-on Gareth Valery, much maligned player scoring a worldie with his weak foot. To pull off a massive comeback, a crucial goal for us in all due respect, and a really limited player who'd had a terrible season scoring a goal with the kind of technique that I don't think any of us thought he was capable of. So, Michael Keane wins the Gareth Valery Award. I've just added that one into the awards ceremony.
Don't ever try and say football isn't scripted, because it is. It's WWE.
It is. Well, we all knew what the Premier League really wanted, so of course it's gone beyond WWE at this stage. But yeah, Crystal Palace 3-2 home win is the game of the season to nobody's shock. This one, a bit of an interesting award. This next one, the most improved player of the season, and in third place with only one vote out of 19. So there was only 3 players got votes in this department. 1 out of 19 for a player who only arrived in January, and of course that's Vitaly Mikhailenko.
That's a stretch. You can't. There's only one winner of this, and it's gonna. We'll get to him in a sec. But Mikhailenko came in, and then this is what he is. You'll see if he improves next season. You can't say he's improved when you've got no base. Like, this is what you'll base his improvements on this half season. That's it. I'd love to know who voted for that.
But I can see where people are coming from, though, because he was very leggy when he first came in. He struggled.
Like 2 or 3 games. Like, you can't tell he's most improved. Like, it's like.
I mean, that's a good point. He was leggy for 2 or 3 games, but then I think obviously he was put out in the cold for a bit while John Joe Kenny took turns at left back. So, we weren't too sure at first, but then he obviously made it his own the last sort of 2 months of the season. And obviously, I think that I genuinely believe that kept us up. The lack of balance in the team until then was terrible between Luca Steen's sale and him sort of growing into the team in early April. We were really struggling for lack of balance. And it's the same thing, obviously, was recording this just after a couple of England games where Gareth Southgate's been playing right-footed fullbacks at left back, and it was a horrible watch if anyone tuned into those. So lack of balance in teams is just horrible to watch in terms of the quality of the football. There's no flow to the team, and the England games were painful, but the Everton games were even more painful because the general quality of the side was even lower. So, that was those couple of months, that February, March, it was painful.
You only have to remember the half season we spent with Cuco Martina at left back because we
had
because Leighton Baines got an injury, and then as soon as Baines came back, the whole team improved because the balance was just restored. I'm with you on that. It was shocking.
Balance is crucial. I despise right-footed left backs and left-footed right backs. It's just
only Cancelo who can do it, and he's one of the top fullbacks in world football.
Alessandro Costoni did it for a couple of years for us.
Just because one player can do it doesn't mean it's a good idea for everyone else.
No, honest to God, I'll die on that hill that we should never have like inverted fullbacks unless your wingers are obviously on the preferred sides. you've got a right-footed right winger, you can maybe get away with it. But obviously, we didn't have any left-footers in the team at one stage last season. It was painful to watch. Same with that England game. Just never ever put players on fullbacks on the opposite side of the foot. I will never accept that from any manager. It really rattles me. So, I'm frothing at the mouth here, so I'm going to crack on. Just the idea of it. So yeah, Mikhailenko, just for that alone, fair play to him. He deserves to be on the list. He has improved. I know you might not agree with that one, Terry, but I actually think I didn't vote for him personally, but I would say he has grown into the team. We are clutching the straws.
I disagree with it on the merits of you can class him as a most improved player when he's brand new. It's not that I don't think he improved, he did. But yeah, go on, who else?
Yeah, I mean, we are obviously clutching the straws. There's not many players that did improve this season. In second place with 4 of the 19 votes is Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, strong shouts, yeah. Not the Messiah, saviour, not the new Wayne Rooney, not any of these things that I think some people have built him up to be, and not that anyone's called him the new Wayne Rooney, but he's not this incredible generational talent that people think, but he epitomised everything good about Everton in the second half of the season when he got established in the team. High energy, high work rate, high passion. He obviously needs a lot of improvements in some areas like his final ball and his set pieces, but he led the charge from the front. He was what we needed. And to go from being on Preston's bench to starting every week in Everton's survival fight was a big jump for the lad. So he's improved a lot this season.
Yeah, of course. It's worth noting, obviously, the amount he's contributed this season. You think before that, like, under Carlo Ancelotti, when we did see him play, he did look like he wasn't ready.
Yeah. He probably wasn't ready this year. He probably, in a perfect world, would have been better going on loan. Maybe if we'd have been a better club, we'd have been around, like, say 10th again, 9th, 10th. He probably would have benefited from going on loan to a team in the position that we ended up being in. And he would have come back in the summer a better player, but obviously that's not how the cards fell. We were the team down the bottom, and he did play for us. So hopefully this summer, with everything fresh from the start and Lampard with some proper time to get into the team, Gordon comes back and he's much better for it and has kicked on even more and he's improved even more and he can establish himself in the team even after new players come in, and he makes himself undroppable because there's nothing I like more than a young academy lad, a young local lad to establish himself in the Everton team. It's great. He's just got to be there on merit. Like, no, when Barkley was playing, when Rooney was playing, they were there on merit. They weren't in the team because of where they were from. It was nice that they were from where they were from, but they were good enough to play every week. That's what I want from Gordon. I want him to be just in the team without question because he's good enough.
Yeah, well, he's proved his ability. I think, like you said, I think the one thing he needs to develop is his football brain. His decision making could be better. And I think he's still quite young. He's got a lot of time on his side to develop that, and that is one of the sort of attributes that you can excuse at an early stage in your career. I think if he grows into that and develops his football, his awareness, if you like, I think he will definitely be a decent player. He'll be certainly good enough for Everton. Even if we progress as a club, which we hope we do. So that's Gordon at number 2. 4 votes out of 19, 1 for Mikhailenko. That leaves 14 votes, and all 14 of those go to the pretty unanimous number 1 most improved player of the season award goes to none other than Alex Iwobi. The ultimate, if we were watching WWE, as Terry said before, the real heel to face turn of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fans, myself included, had wrote him off. Like, he was very much a
heel.
Needless damaging Mashiri by with we now know to be Kia Jarabchin, and he had no place in the team. He had no defined role. Every time he played, he didn't really contribute. And he frustrated as much as anything else. And it was he just didn't seem an Everton player, and it was if only someone could come in and take him off us, and we can correct that mistake. But he came into the team and weirdly found a really unexpected position. I know he played there occasionally to Carlo, but right wing back is not the strongest defender. But I think they realised that his progression of the ball, his travelling with the ball, his progressive passes, progressive runs, he's suited being deeper and further back into the team than high up the pitch, because he gets more out of the rest of the players. And he scored the crucial goal against Newcastle, obviously, and he was just a fundamental, he was one of the key players in our fight back, in our survival, because he just was undroppable for a long spell of the season.
He's really learned how to graft this season. I think that's where his sort of revival in popularity has come from, is that he's learned how to graft. I think we often seen him as a bit of a prima donna type player.
Which I think was unfair. I don't think he was ever a prima donna, but he seemed very sheltered. Like, you could tell he'd come through at Arsenal, where they never really have bad times. Their bad times are finishing fifth. Like, he can just be a nice footballer and get by on that. But I think he even said himself, isn't he, that he realised that Everton, that if he runs and works hard, doesn't matter if he misplaces passes. If he's working his arse off, then misplaced passes are not a problem. It's only if he's floating about the pitch and not sweating. That's if there's no mud on his shorts, then the Goodison crowd won't be having you, no matter what you do. Whereas they'll forgive all sins if you're working hard for the team. So when he started working hard, he started becoming a fan favourite.
And I think it's not too dissimilar. We've seen a lot spoken about. I think Geordies have been bigging it up as similar to what Joe Linton's done at Newcastle. I think sort of, you say he's just become a lot more useful since dropping deeper, because he's big and he's quite skillful as well. Can carry the ball, but I think they're similar to Joe Linton. I don't think they're very good in terms of end product, either of them, but they can put themselves about the pitch, and they're also decent on the ball. But
take advantage of their strengths and hide their weaknesses, and that's what we've done with Alex.
That's what the best managers do.
Yeah, he's thrived under Lampard and the change in system to the back three, back five, because it's allowed him a role in the team where his strengths come out, and he's not, every time he loses the ball, it doesn't mean he's going to cause a goal. Like, it obviously does happen to him occasionally, but he's kicked on so much this season, and fair play to him, because I was one of the many people who just thought it was just an ill fit. He was going to have to go, and he might still go, but at least now we'll get proper money back, because he's put in a proper shift of performances, and someone might come in and be attracted to him. But if not, I won't be desperate for him to go either.
Yeah, I think that's that in itself. The fact that I think a lot of us, both of us included, would have bit your hand off for someone to come in and buy him last summer. Whereas I think that I wouldn't be against him sticking around and hopefully putting in similar contributions to what he did in the second half of this season. Because he was one of the key, the key catalysts for us staying up.
Yeah, if we stick with the three at the back system with wing backs, then that'll be his role. Him and Nathan Patterson are fighting for that right wing back role. Obviously he's never going to be a full back in a back four, but I think that's his strongest position in this Everton team. I think there'd have to be a lot of changes in personnel for him to go into the number 10 position. But even if he did, as long as he's got mobile players around him, he'd thrive there. So he's got a future at Everton, and he finally feels like he fits now.
Certainly. So yeah, Alex Iwobi is the most improved player of the season. On to the next category, and one which I found it very hard to vote in this one. This is probably the most challenging one for me. Underrated player of the season, because in all honesty, and I'm not going to be too harsh here, but I don't think there was anyone in our team who I really considered underrated. In terms of, we all know what the players contributed, and some fans often in the past have underrated decent players and overrated sort of bang average players, but I don't think there was anyone in this team I really considered to be underrated, and I think I found this really hard to cast my vote, this one, but in fair place for underrated player of the season, I think this one might just send Terry's head into the River Mersey, but In third place with 2 out of 19 votes is Michael Keane, underrated player of the season.
Yeah, everyone's opinion our souls, everyone's got them, but some people think, and that's what I think of that. How can you be underrated? I'm sorry, I just don't agree. How can he be underrated when he was single-handedly trying to send us down for us more games?
I think those two votes have probably come from the Gareth Barlow goal that he scored against Palace.
Some people might be watching this and going, "You big dickhead, you haven't got a clue what you're on about." But that's fair enough. Whatever.
But yeah, Michael Keane with 2 votes out of 19 is the third most underrated player of the season, apparently. In second place, with 4 votes out of 19, is the man we've just discussed, Alex Iwobi, who, in fairness, was much more of an unsung hero, certainly, than I think Keane was.
That's who I voted for. I'm going to be surprised that I struggle with this, same as you. There wasn't many who played well and didn't get the credit, although I can think of one now, so maybe one, and we'll go on to that. And if not, I'll tell you who it was. But yeah, I think Iwobi, I think he was beating the team long before we got into it. And he didn't get any plaudits outside of the fan base, and his plaudits inside the fan base only came when he scored after in the Newcastle game, I think, and he was crucial, as we just talked about. So I'm very interested to see who people picked, who the winner was.
Yeah, the one you mentioned there, I think the one you think it might be, I don't think it will be that one. If it's the same honourable mention I'm going to give afterwards, we will do anyway. But in first place with 6, again, look how close this one was, a lot closer than the others. The winner only got 6 votes out of the 19, but the underrated player of the season award goes to, again, it's Vitaly Mikhailenko.
That's not who I would have said. I think he did dead well, Mikhailenko. I just didn't think he was underrated. I thought everyone was very happy with him. But as I say, it was a very hard category to pick, and my pick wasn't like it was underrated in the sense of nobody thought he was good. But my pick was Jordan Pickford. I just thought then. I mean, my pick was Iwobi, but I just thought then Pickford didn't get anywhere near the plaudits he deserved outside of the fan base. He kept us up. I think him and Richarlison together were the 2 most crucial players who kept us up with the saves he was making, and honest to God, like not just the one against Chelsea, but he had loads of key saves that if a lesser goalkeeper go right through him, and it changes all those games. So yeah, who was your honourable mention?
I was going to say Doucouré, because I mean I thought he had a terrible stint in the middle of the season, but for me I think it was more because of how stretched he is. I think he has to. I was saying this in a recent show. I think it might have been with Owen or Paul. Doucouré has to do the job of about 3 different players at Everton.
Yeah, when he was in midfield with Andre Gomez, he was practically in midfield by himself in a double pivot, and sometimes he was playing against 3 other players by himself.
That's what I'm saying. I think
he had some poor games, but he also had some really good games. And
I think he looks as poor as he does sometimes because he's so stretched. I think he'd have to be a bloody octopus to be able. It's like firing a load of tennis balls and like asking him, like an octopus needs to try. It's the only chance you've got of catching them all at once. He's trying to juggle 3 different roles, and that's because, like you say, the likes of Gomez and whoever else are rubbish in there. I think that's where Doucouré gets a little bit of a mention for me. Pickford as well, a good honourable mention. But of course, like we say, the award there goes to Vitaly Mikhailenko, who did come in and, do a steady job. And I think that's probably where the underrated term maybe came from, is that he's not like the Pickford or the Richarlison that you mentioned there. He's not one of the big, massive names. He's come in halfway through the season, and he's not like pulled treat, like he's not like set the world alight as such, but he has become that sort of 7 out of 10 performances on the regular, which is
he's been
that kind of consistency.
Solid, steady Eddie, and at a time when it wasn't easy for him to do that because he's coming to a new league, doesn't speak the language, he's only young, and what's going on in Ukraine is going on in Ukraine, and it affects his family personally. Like it wasn't easy for him to come in and
horrible scenario,
do the job.
On top of that relegation battle as well, just a horrible scenario for him all round. Like it wasn't easy, and he's dealt with it fantastic. So, in fairness, I think it is an award well deserved for him. So yeah, there you go. Whereas,
I can't.
yeah, I can't really argue with Mikhailenko getting that one. So they have a guys underrated player of the season award goes to Vitaly Mikhailenko. Next one, this is one that can span any generations, but this is the Everton icon of the season. This could be a player from any generation. In the past, we've had winners such as Tim Cahill, Howard Kendall, Leighton Baines. This season's award goes to the current club captain, Seamus Coleman, which, in fairness, I think obviously there's a lot of reasons behind that. I think one of them undoubtedly being obviously the little speech that Frank Lampard did in the dressing room post Crystal Palace, the sort of plaudits he gave him, and what he believed to be his contribution to the survival bid. But I think a lot of Coleman's sort of iconic status comes from earlier in his career. Obviously, his performances have been poor lately. I think it's in his best interests to begin winding his playing career down, but his commitment to the club's still there. You can obviously see that. And it's not his fault that his legs are going and, his best years are behind him, but he's sort of, in fairness, similar to John Joe Kenny, but obviously with a lot more respect behind him. I think there's he still hasn't shied away, but it just obviously looks like his best days are behind, and you can tell that by looking at him. But his commitment hasn't wavered. I think his performances since moving into the centre back have been a bit more solid. But yeah, Seamus Coleman is the icon of the season. Who would you vote for in this one, Terry? Because this one is always one. I've gone for a couple of different ones, and mine's never won on this award since I've been doing this channel. So I don't know who you went for.
I went for Seamus Coleman.
Did you?
Yeah. And it probably was hot off the back of that little clip with Lampard in the dressing room with him, and outside on a pitch with his kids and stuff. But we spoke about this on the season review. We had like a little argument with Paul, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
But honestly, I think we'll miss him when he's gone, and we'll miss his influence when we've gone. We should have done a better job of protecting him in the latter stages of his career. We've asked the most.
I've just said, yeah.
Yeah, we've asked the most of him when he had the least left to give physically, but his mentality, his leadership off the pitch, everything is huge at this club. Vitaly Mikhailenko said on international duty that Seamus Coleman has helped him tremendously, in his difficult circumstances coming into the club and, away from his home country and away from his family with everything that's going on there, that Coleman said he'd do anything for him. And, sort of like, was always there as someone he could turn to. And that is a proper captain. And when you look around our squad, there aren't a lot of captain material players. A few years ago, people were saying, Mason Holgate, should he be the new club captain at Everton? And when you think back at that now, you just think, what were people on? Like, no way. Coleman is at the stage in his career now where his playing time should be managed. Like, he's not got the energy.
He's very limited now. I think he's really struggling, but
I think he's a quality player on his day. You've seen when he's on it, but you expose him, a player of his age with his previous injury record, by overplaying him. And we've always been bad at this as a club by not managing these older players into like more appropriate roles. And honest to God, when we look back on his career, we'll look back at Seamus Coleman and he was proper Everton, and he is proper Everton. And I just hope that we adequately replace him when he does go. And then honestly, I can see there being a place for him at the club, same way there is with Leighton Baines.
But I think when people get upset and say jobs for the boys, I think it's a bit different in the sense that I think there is a genuine mentality with Seamus Coleman and Leighton Baines. It's not like it's Francis Sheffers and Jose Baxter.
Yeah, like
different kettle of fish, I think.
Baines and Coleman were two of the best fullbacks in Europe, and if they're good as coaches, which obviously I haven't got a clue if they are or aren't, then there's a place for them at the club. They're important members, and particularly Coleman for the leadership he's shown. People get upset with him for not being a good leader on the pitch because he doesn't ref the game himself. It's like, well, outside of the top clubs, how many captains can ref a game? Like, Steven Gerrard do it. Frank Lampard, John Terry used to do it. But if you're Everton's captain in a relegation battle and you're 16th, you can't dictate to the ref. You can try, but it won't work. But what you need to do is protect the players in your team. And when you know, there was clips of him in the Anfield derby where he, shock horror. Anthony Gordon's been kicked and he's on the floor, but gets called a diver, and he's pointing at the badge on Gordon's chest because he's helping Gordon through a key game away at Anfield in a relegation battle, and we've just gone into the bottom three. The nerves could have overwhelmed Gordon, and he's Coleman's there right with him.
Yeah, in fairness, he's a rock. I think he's got a much more solid character than people give him credit for. I think.
Yeah. The dying breed. He's an old school player. He's the ones you see Roy Keane and Gary Neville and Carragher bemoan the lack of now. A proper leader in a club, and a club that should have 5 or 6 or 7 of his like, and he's the only one. And that's Lampard. I wouldn't be surprised if he's spotted that as well. That's why he's taken to Coleman so much, because he sees a bit of himself off the pitch in Coleman and probably thinks that's what I need more of at this club. If I'm going, players who run the dressing room, he won't be around for much longer, so I need to bring in more, and hopefully he does.
So yeah, that's the icon of the season vote, done and dusted. Goal of the season. Quickly go through this one. In third place, 2 votes out of 19. Demarai Gray's rasper against Arsenal in the last minute. Really great goal, good moments, a very bright spot in the demise under Rafa Benitez. In joint seconds, we've got Andros Townsend, Worldy against Burnley. Goal in at the table come the end of the season, ultimately kept us up, you could argue.
As if that didn't win, that was my vote. I'm not the biggest Andros Townsend fan, but God, you can't say a goal was hit better for Everton this season than that as a pure goal. It was an absolute hell strike.
It was a belter, but I actually gave my vote to the other joint second one. I went for Vitaly Mikhailenko's volley against Leicester, just because of where we were at come that point in the season, and I didn't expect us to get 1 iota from that Leicester game. So for him to score that and help us onto a win there, that was like massive for me. And also it was a really well taken goal in its own right, to be fair. Like, it was nice to be able to watch that back, and for him to get his first goal as well. It was in some style. I was really happy with that one. So 5 votes out of 19 for both of those. 2 out of 19 for Demarai Gray as well. So that leaves 7 votes, and 6 of those went to the number 1 goal of the season. Not in terms of quality by any means, but obviously for its importance, it was Dominic Calvert-Lewin headed against Crystal Palace. We've discussed it on numerous occasions already during this show. The moment of the season.
You need to pick the purest, best goal, not the best, not the most significant goal, not the most crucial goal, just the best goal. Imagine you're playing FIFA, what would be you're most happy with it? And it would be that Townsend one for me. But I see why people have done it. That diving header, that's pure Everton. A diving header to win survival, that's old school Everton.
My favourite goals on FIFA are when you sweated across for the tap-in. Oh, right. Today you have a guy, goal of the season, get another award for the Crystal Palace game. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's winning goal in that game is wins goal of the season, courtesy of the Toffee Blues votes. On to our penultimate award now, the young player of the season. Obviously, this goes for any member of the Everton first team, age 23 or under. Only 2 players got votes in this category, so we haven't even got a bronze medalist here. Second place with only 1 vote out of the 19 is the new signing once again, Vitaly Mikhailenko. He gets 1 vote out of 19. Again, young lads coming from Ukraine, done a really good job for half a season. He's grown into the team, and fair play, he deserves a shout out in this category. But straight on to the outright winner, almost unanimous, 18 votes out of 19, a whopping, a tremendous seal of approval for the performances of Anthony Gordon this season. Anthony Gordon gets the Young Player of the Season award with consummate with a very comfortable win there for him. I think 18 votes out of 19. What an improvement this season.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest ratio, isn't it, of all the categories? But I'll give the bronze medal to Jared Branthwaite. He got sent off, so he had a bad game, but he did score a crucial goal in an away draw at Chelsea, which, when we look back now, was important considering the team we put out. We didn't think we were getting anything. So there's your bronze medal, but it's Gordon, isn't it? It's got to be Gordon. Who else?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like I say, last season he was obviously a really young lad when he played in the previous years under Carlo Ancelotti, on a lot more fleeting appearances the year before, but he didn't really look ready. Like I say, this season he's really grown into the team over the course of the season and become increasingly important as it went on. I mean, really you wouldn't want to put so much weight on young shoulders. And that's down to our running of the club. As we know, it's not good enough. The recruitment's not been good enough, but the pressure's been put on Anthony Gordon. God, he's handled it pretty well. He's done excellently and contributed some important goals as well. Got the winner against Man United. A couple of big contributions. Really, some really good stuff.
The thing that's impressed me the most about him, it wasn't just the games where we won and there was a few gay players who played well. It was the times like when we got battered away at Tottenham, and he was the only player who looked like he was still trying to do anything on the pitch, and Lampard singled him out. Like, that took character, because it would have been very easy for any young player to shrink there, not because of the battering they were getting off Tottenham, but how all the senior players just down tools and just cried off and didn't want to know. They all went into their shells and stopped fighting for the club. And instead of just, being cowed by that, he decided he was going to chase down every ball. He was going to contest every challenge. And that showed massive character. So that, for me, was the moment where I thought Anthony Gordon's got something here. He can be an Everton player. And it was such a bad result and a bad game for us. But that was the one little gem I saw in that game, that Anthony Gordon had minerals.
He's a serious character. He's an Everton character.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think the manager saw it as well. The Lampard could see it, so could all the other Evertonians who were watching, going, the only one worth a character out of this team, the only one who should be going back on the team coach or playing should be him. Just have it to himself, first class, because he's the only one who's earned his wage that night.
Yeah, he's certainly earned this award. We speak about proper Everton characters. He's shown he does well have what it takes this season. And hopefully he kicks on even further next season. On the note of proper Everton characters, we move on to our final award, the Player of the Season.
This one won't be as dominant. This will be a straight fight between two, I think.
Not as straight as you think. Again, there's only two players who received votes in this category. In second place, with only 2 votes out of 19, a proper Everton character, no doubt about it, and a crucial figure, an iconic figure of this generation. And yeah, with 2 votes out of 19, in second place is Richarlison. Crucial player, probably the iconic moments of the season, or one of them, with that flare in his hands. Yeah. Brilliant player. I'll go on record, I had a massive rant on Twitter the other day when obviously there's a few rumours about him going to Spurs for a very derisory fee, and we got very vocal on Twitter the other day about how, for me, Richarlison is, to me, what Duncan Ferguson was to my dad's generation.
Yeah, I've said the same as well. I had a little thing on Twitter a while ago about that exact point, that, not the best striker in the league. He only scores, on average over his time here, he scored about 14, 13 10, 11. Goals.
So I say about 11, 12.
Yeah, it was about 10, 11, 12 this year, but on average it's about 13, 14 a season. But the majority, 9 out of 10 of those goals, are always important goals and important, moments. And, when we need a goal against a good team, it's usually him who comes up with it. He is the modern Duncan Ferguson, because he's the important player in a poor, rough, unhappy period for the club, but he's the one the fans identify with, and it's not because he's a quality player, it's because he's a fighter and he loves the club back. You see, he'd run through lava for the club. He loves the supporters. He always gets the crucial goal when it's needed, and you've got to mention it because it's the same as Duncan Ferguson. It adds a little bit to the players' connection with the supporters, because the Liverpool fans hate him. Doesn't matter why they hate him. They can say, "Oh, that's because he's this, that, and the other." Doesn't matter. The fact that they hate him feeds into what Everton fans love for him. So he is literally the modern equivalent of Duncan Ferguson. I'm right there with you for that.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's why I got very vocal about, obviously, the state of the potential sale to Spurs. And I was saying about how it told for Peter Johnson when Dunk was sold to Newcastle. He was pretty much handed out to the club after that. And I was saying how things could well follow suit for the current hierarchy if they go about that the wrong way, considering the campaign was already gathering a bit of pace. But there's been some developments recently. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen next in terms of the transfers, in terms of the board, what's going to happen. But if Richarlison goes for the wrong fee, I will be heartbroken, is what I was basically getting at when I wrote that.
I'll be sad to see him go for any fee, but if he does go, I couldn't blame him. He's done his bit.
Not at all.
He's done his bit for the club. I hope he gets to do more bits for the club. But right now, he's a player who could be playing at a level better than we're offering, and I don't think it'll be at Everton for much longer. But if he is, I'll be ecstatic because he's a proper Everton player. I wish it was in better circumstances. I wish a proper Everton player meant something else, but in modern context, it really doesn't. It's the Duncan Fergusons, it's the Tim Cahills, it's the fighters. But the winner is only going to be one player then, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Like I say, if Richarlison left for anything less than, I'd say, 75 million, then we're insulting ourselves. So yeah, if anyone, obviously not on the board listening in, no, that's your bare minimum there. So don't be telling for anything less than that. But ideally, don't tell him at all, because he's been fantastic for us, and he's the runner-up here. But he is a proper Everton icon. But increasingly becoming an Everton icon is our number one at the winner of this awards with 17 votes out of 19 is Everton's number one, England's number one player of the season, Jordan Pickford. Shouldn't come as any surprise, especially given that rally at the end of the season. We really did win us some games single-handedly.
Yeah, he's kept us in the Premier League. He's just been outstanding, and I haven't always been a big Pickford fan. I had a spell where I would have been happy for us to sell him and thought we would never improve until we did sell him. So I've not always been a card-carrying member of the fan club, but if you've got any footballing brain whatsoever, you will look at that goalkeeper and go, it's in the form of his career, and he's kept that team, that club, that historic club in English football's top division at the top table. So every single penny we spent on him has been completely worth it. He was fantastic towards the end of the season. Some of the saves he was pulling off, he had no right to make. And not just the one that won the award, the Chelsea one, but some of the ones against Leicester away as well, a crucial time. Yeah. He's stepped up. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, and he gets a bad rap because he puffs his chest out, and he's an extroverted character, and that does rub some people the wrong way. But honestly,
it also rubs people up the wrong way that he plays for Everton. Let's be quite fully honest.
Well, whatever the reason, he gets on some people's bad side, and that doesn't matter. He's just been sensational for us, and the reason we're still a Premier League club and we're not imploding currently as a club is in a large way because of Jordan Pickford.
That's a pretty hefty testimony, and fair play to him, because he's deserved it this season, hasn't he? He's been stellar all season. You get a lot of this nonsense, especially when England games come around, where people make out that he's only been good for England for the past, eternity. But how did he get in the England team in the first place?
England starters always come with media baggage because the country and the press are just weird about England players. There's very few who they're just happy with. Like, you know, Harry Maguire is the starting key centre back. They're never happy with him. There's you know, the only one in that squad who's pretty safe in his position is Harry Kane. Everyone else gets questioned. Some people think that it shouldn't be, you know, pick your right back. Some people, whoever you think the right back is, there'll be other people who think it should be someone else. The left back, you know, Chilwell, Shaw, the centre backs got questions. There's probably only two unquestionable players, actually, Kane and Rice at this point, I would imagine, are the only two. And people are desperate to get Pickford out of goal. And I'm not even just doing this as a defensive Everton thing, going, "Are you serious? Aaron Ramsdale is not a patch on Jordan Pickford as a keeper."
Well, we just saw him week 4 against Hungary. I mean, not all of them were his fault, but
my whole thing, I don't give a toss what happens with England. It's not even like, it doesn't change anything about Jordan Pickford if he gets dropped for England, not for Everton anyway. But it's like, I honestly, and they've done it now, but I used to say, I want them to drop him, and they'll soon quickly see what a stupid idea that is and go back to him. Because it's like, for me, the difference in quality, it's harder to see with the keeper, but for me, it's like dropping a fully fit Kane for Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins is a good player on his day, but he's not a fully fit Harry Kane. I think that's the difference between Pickford and Ramsdale.
Yeah, well, I personally think that, ironically, I think Pickford is a top sort of 4, 5, 6 keeper in the league, similar to the position where Arsenal find themselves, and Ramsdale will be somewhere about 16th where we are. So ironically, it should be a role reversal in terms of which club.
I'm not particularly down on Ramsdale. He's not a bad keeper, but to compare them, it's just because it's goalkeepers. It's genuinely like saying that Ollie Watkins or Danny Ings should start over Harry Kane if he's fit, because they have some good games sometimes, and Harry Kane sometimes doesn't have a good games. Like, I'm sorry, there's just a massive gulf in quality between Pickford and Ramsdale. Nick Pope is closer to Pickford for me than Ramsdale.
I would agree with that as well.
His distribution isn't the same, and he wouldn't suit the team. But if you said to me who's the second goalkeeper for England, you know, I'd say Nick Pope over Ramsdale. So for them to say that Ramsdale's better than Pickford, for me, is just laughable.
It is, and I think a lot of that's down to a lot of Arsenal hype, to be honest. I think we never really heard while he was playing for Sheffield United or Bournemouth, but
yeah,
you know, that's by the by. I think what we're basically getting at is Jordan Pickford's been excellent for Everton and England for quite some time. Certainly for the majority of this season, Jordan Pickford's been excellent in both camps. So, you know, unanimously been voted the player of the season by us as well. There, 17 votes out of 19. Jordan Pickford is Everton's Toffee Blues player of the season. That brings us to the end of the awards ceremony. There you have it, guys. Let us know your opinions on all of the awards categories, all of the people who we voted for. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let us know who you would give all these awards to. Drop us a comment, give us a like, and subscribe for more content. Check out the store links in the description below. New season, we're not hopefully a much better one, and hopefully a lot more positives to discuss in next year's awards ceremony. We certainly hope it's a lot easier to pick an underrated player of the season, for instance. But there you have it, guys. That's your awards ceremony for 2022. And we'll be sure to tune in for more content as silly season gets underway, pre-season coming up soon as well. So the fun never stops when you're an Evertonian. See you guys soon, and thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.